And what was like the most amount you made in one night?
So in one night, I think I made at the club in a small cornfield town. I think I made $1,000
in one night.
Yeah, but they embraced your figure for who you were. As long as you had rhythm and you knew how to dance and you knew how to work the stage and you had that confidence, that sex appeal, then by all means, like, they embraced it, and I loved it because I wasn't the only thicker girl that was there. Like, I wasn't the only chubby girl or the one with weight. Like,
and I admire that about you. Like, you were like, I don't care.
Girl, like, after so many shots of tequila, I'm like, okay, let's go home. Like, I don't care what happens. It's your birthday, and I mean, it was my friend, and like, her birthday wish was me, and so like that's what it was, and so like we had a great time. And slipped something into her alcohol drink, and that's why like it's very like, and so the club that I worked for was actually like really good about like monitoring that and making sure like it didn't happen, because you know, like, if we don't have any dancers, they're not getting paid. When we found out that I was having a girl, like, he told me that I had to like write my name off the lease, and I had to find somewhere to go, and he didn't care anything about me because he didn't want a girl. Being able to have a friendship with the parents of my daughters, I'm not gonna lie, has actually like helped me cope with the grieving that, you know, women, they don't like to talk about, and it's hard.
Las opiniones expresadas en este podcast son responsabilidad de cada uno de los participantes.
The opinions expressed in this podcast are the responsibility of each participant.
Why Not Podcast?
Hi friends, bienvenidos a Why Not Podcast. Es un podcast que voy a estar hablando en inglés, en español, y hoy tengo una invitada de lujo, a really special guest, Rose.
Thank you.
Welcome,
for having
Rose.
Me. Thank you so much. Thank y'all for being here and tuning in.
Yeah, welcome. Glad to have you here.
Yeah.
So tell me a little bit about your childhood. Like, you grew up here in Indiana?
Yeah, so I'm born and raised corn-fed in these cornfields.
Okay.
So like central Indiana is like where I first started out, and just like an hour north of Indianapolis. And I kind of, at my first 9 years of life, I lived out in the country, and so I was raised as a country girl. I was raised by my maternal grandparents, my step-grandpa and my mom's mom are the ones that raised me, and then I had a lot of influence from like my great-grandparents on my maternal side. So, and like my biological parents were like out doing their own thing, and so like I'm really thankful that I had a family that took me in and didn't let me go into the system, and not just myself, but like my older deaf brother, and eventually like my younger sister got adopted by my aunt and her wife, and you know, and my mom like has my youngest sibling. But then after 9 years, I moved to like the city, like, well, a bigger city than what the town I lived in out in the country. And being around this different kind of vibe, you know, going from country and listening to country music and old school country music, like, and then coming to, the ish is bananas. B-A-N-A-N-A-S. So like it was a big like cultural shift for me. And
because you were used to something different.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And so like I always grew up in church, and so like gospel music was always, but like it was always the hymnals. And, and then like when we went to the city, we would go to like more like non-denominational churches, and like the ones that would sing more contemporary Christian music and Christian rock. And so like that's what I grew up on. But then moving to the city, I got more exposed to like R&B and like early pop and like everything that was like early 2000s and stuff. And so it was a big cultural switch, but I mean, I'm thankful for it because you got the best of both worlds.
Yeah.
And so like in middle school, I was able to learn a different language, and so I started taking Spanish classes.
Okay.
And like I'm so thankful for that teacher that I had in that class, because she not only just taught you the language, like she taught you everything about the culture, and she would do things that were really interactive with the kids and to actually like get us to kind of grasp onto the culture that is the language. And I've carried it with me for this long. So, and that's what I love about Indiana is because it's so like a little bit of everything. It's diverse.
As in when you were out in the country, it was just the same.
Yeah, no, it was a bunch of white people.
Okay.
It was a bunch of white people.
But I mean, it's like the same thing. Like everyone listens to either the same music or do the same thing, and like here you see a lot of other
diversity.
Yes.
Yeah, and then in my adult life, I would say when I was about 2021, I moved here in town.
Okay.
And so because of the job that brought me here. And that's kind of when I got introduced to a bigger, diverse crowd because we have Purdue and all of the people that come from all over the world, and having that influence. And it's just kind of been home for me ever since.
Yeah. So how did that impact your life? Was it hard at first to adjust to that change?
At first it was because my grandparents who raised me were very traditional and, stuck in their ways because my great-grandpa, his family was from the South and worked the farm fields and, were cotton pickers and tomato pickers. And, he was like one of 14 children, because my great-great-grandparents, who I'm named after, Mama Rose and Papa B, like, that's all they had to rely on. And then when, after the Great Depression and in the 50s and the 40s, people would come up north because all of the factory work and stuff like that, more pay, more opportunity, then that was the American dream. So they came up here, but they also brought their roots with them. And so it was a lot of like, country, southern living and, but up here in the north. And so like, it was really challenging for me because even though like, I wanted to listen to these kind of songs and I vibed with this kind of music, I wasn't allowed to listen to it because it was against my grandparents' wishes because of how traditional they were. So
would you have to like hide when you listened?
Yeah, I would wait for my grandma to go to work because she worked third shift. And like, I would literally sit here and like just shut the door to the computer room, like where I would be able to go on YouTube and like find all these like songs that I wanted to dance to and stuff. And so like, I would just like hide in the closet and just like dance like it was my own little party.
And what would you listen? Like, did you have a CD player, a cassette player?
So this
was radio. Where did you have?
I'm going to snitch on myself on how old I am, but I used to have an MP3 player.
Okay.
Like, I know y'all young kids don't remember MP3 players and iPods, but like that was like what I grew up on. And like
you upload all the music to that MP3?
Yeah. Like I would have to buy each individual song.
Oh. On the computer? Or like how would you buy it?
So I guess it was kind of like in iTunes. Like so this was like when the computer thing was like just like slowly kicking off in the early 2000s. And so like I would go, I'd have my grandparents buy all the music for me, of course. And then they would like go to iTunes and they would go through like if I wanted to like buy the album or something, like they would buy it. And then I would stick the MP3 player into the USB port of the computer tower. And then that would like download all of the music from that was already purchased on the iTunes playlist onto the iPod or the MP3.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that was the first Android and Apple, I promise you.
So that's how you would listen to your music. Like you had headphones and
and so it was a lot of like, especially with R&B, of course, like another thing that really influenced me and like my love for music is the school dances that we would have and like all of the get-togethers because like again my grandparents being so strict and being so traditional, like I couldn't go, like I would go to the football games but very rarely was it like an occasion that I was able to go out and be social and be a kid. I was always stuck at home, and I was always had to like, be like Cinderella and clean the house and make sure the yard was taken care of and stuff. And so when I was able to go to these like middle school dances or something like that, like I would just have a good time with my friends. We would, all like, and that's where I like learned how to dance and stuff. Like one of my good friends, she taught me how to dance in a middle school dance. And like, of course, so like we had like the Cupid Shuffle back then, and Usher and Little John and Ludacris's, like we would just listen to all those good stuff. And man, Y2K, some of like the best music came out at that time, and like all of that stuff, of course, would be downloaded on my MP3 player. Yeah.
Okay. So your grandparents had no idea that you would listen to?
They did, but I think it was also kind of like they still let us be like
you.
Yeah. So like my brother had Call of Duty.
Okay.
And even though like him and my cousin, who was basically like an older brother to me, would like they would always be playing Call of Duty or Grand Theft Auto and stuff like that on the PS2. So like that was their thing, and like that was like their way of like just letting us be kids and having like a little bit of fun. And so music was my thing. Okay. Like I really didn't like so my brother was like big into the Fast and Furious movies and all kinds of movies, like Adam Sandler movies and stuff. And I was more of the music person. He was more of like the TV and movie guy. So, and that was kind of like our little bit of freedom that we had.
How was school? Like, was it different going to school here, like in a small town, as it was out?
So when I was out in the country, in this small town that I was in, like I had a lot of friends, and I got along with everybody, because it was a small town. You knew almost everybody. Yeah. And coming to the city, it was a huge switch for me, because I went from having a lot of friends to being the outcast, being the new kid on the block, and not being able to make friends as fast, and me being so like, I guess, antisocial, or not like knowing, because I'm new to all of this stuff that I'm being introduced to. Like these kids know these artists like Usher and T-Pain and Chris Brown and stuff like that, but I'm just now getting introduced to them. And so they have like maybe a year or two experience or knowledge of this kind of stuff. And so I would get bullied a lot. And, because I look, different from them, like I would always, so it was a switch. But like also like I said, my brother, he started out in a deaf school, and that was like on the outskirts of St. Louis. And then when we moved to the city, he also moved to public school. And because he was still considered as a deaf child, he had to go in these special classes. And even though we went to the same school, like he would get picked on. But then when little sister would step in and stick up for him and defend him, like people knew not to mess with my brother anymore. Because like I may pick on him, but that's my brother. But when you pick on him, you coming for my family, I'm coming for you. Yeah. Excuse me, like that's just what we did.
So it was hard to adjust to that change in school?
Yeah, socially it was, but I still excelled at my classes. Okay. Like I loved learning, I loved school. And so I would always like get A's or B's. I think about in 4th grade, I kind of had a rebellious stage where like I had just found out around that time that my grandparents wasn't my parents, because I would call them mama and daddy. And like I would think that they were my parents. And come to find out, the woman that I had been calling cousin my whole life was actually indeed my mother. Like my biological mom. Okay. And so like at this point, like I kind of rebelled, and like I think like the lowest grade I ever got was like a D.
Do you remember how old you were?
I was like around 9 or 10. Okay. And like this was just like found out as soon as we moved to the city. And my grandparents like bought a house behind my great grandparents. And so I was real close, but that was the reason why we moved to the city, because it was also in the same like neighborhood as my grandma's job. And my grandpa, who worked out in like a city maybe 30 minutes east of where we lived out in the country, they moved a little bit closer. And so like that was the kind of niche, and my grandparents were like, yeah, we're gonna move closer to family, because being out here is nice, but my parents are getting older, and I want to be able to take care of them. So,
So you were 9 when you found out who your real mom was.
Yeah, around all this time when we were just moving back to the city. Yeah.
And like, how was that relationship with you? And
so my mom kind of would only come around just because of like she needed something, like she was desperate, you know. And like as a mother myself, you know, I kind of questioned her choices as a mother, like now as an adult, because like, you know, she would choose men over her kids, you know, and her duty as a mom, she, you know, but that's what she wanted to do. And so she would be gone for years at a time, and then she would call her mom, which was the grandma that was raising me, and say, hey, can you come pick me up because such and such and da 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 da. And then there was one time where she called and my grandma got her a ticket from Vegas to come back to Indiana. And that's when we found out that I had a little sister who was 18 months old at the time.
Oh.
Yeah. And like that was like a big, huge family shock. And so my mom came back with my little sister, and so like I'm over here like surprised because first of all it's another girl, and like I've been the only girl up until this point, you know, with my older cousin and my older brother that would always be around, and so I'd always get picked on and stuff, or I would have to play with the boys or go play outside instead of being able to be in the house and like play with my dogs or did something that I wanted to do. So it was good knowing that like I had another sibling, but like shortly after, my mom would come home and stick around for the family for a little bit. She would dip, but this time she left without my little sister. And so there was like a big fuss in the family about like what was going to happen with my little sister. And my grandma, having that kind, caring heart that she does, wanted to take her in as well, but my grandpa was like, no, like we're not having any more kids. Like this is when they're about in their 40s, 50s.
Oh.
And he was like, I'm not going to take care of any more kids. And well, my aunt, which is my mom's older sister, she was like, well, I'm like, and I'm not going to be able to have any children. So like, you know, she can live with me and I can just have guardianship of her. And this was like a conversation she had with my mother, and it was like, you know, I could take care of her and, you know, until you get your stuff together or whatever. And eventually, like, as the story went on, my mom, like, never really got her stuff together to get my little sister back. And so eventually my aunt and my mom conversed and talked about adoption and her being my aunt's kid full time and her being her mom full time. And that's when my mom agreed and was like, yep, this is what's best. Like, I'm not ready for a kid. I don't have my life together. So yeah, go ahead. And so, I mean, as unfortunate as adoption may sound, like, it's a beautiful thing. And like now my sister is like graduated with a college degree from Purdue Fort Wayne, and like she's in the band, like she plays for she would play different concerts and stuff with her professors, and like she's doing stuff in the military, like, and she her goal one day is to like be in the military band and to play for them, but like as the maestro, whoever they are that leads the band. So, you know, and the beautiful thing that I've learned like through witnessing adoption in my family with my aunt, you know, and her wife, because they've been excellent parents for her, you know, and looking at her life compared to mine, which, you know, I like at the same time as I'm learning out all this stuff and the adoption is happening in my family, like there was a lot of friction because my grandma was mad at the fact that it was my aunt that wanted to adopt her and I can't do this and all this and that and the other. So I mean it got so ugly that it went to court, and there were court battles over this situation.
To have her, like, your grandma wanted to keep her?
Well, she wanted to have grandparents' rights. And so, like, that's what she was fighting for. And, I mean, it was just, and my grandma has, like, bipolar and schizophrenia. So, like, mentally, in this point in her life, she just wasn't there. She wasn't on her meds. She wasn't doing anything. And she wasn't getting the help that she needed. And so, like, when she would lose, like, court battles or something like that, like, she would come home and, like, she would hit on me. She would beat on me. And, like, sometimes, like, it after a certain amount of years, I would say about 5 or 6 years, like I kind of got to the point where I was like, I'm enough. Like I'm done. I've had enough. Like you're not going to put your hands on me and expect that that's going to keep being okay because, 5 years of abuse as a child, like, and she put me in, which I'm thankful for, like everything that I've went through. And just because I've gone through it doesn't mean that like I look at it in a negative way. But I mean, the truth is what it is. And throughout my teenage years, my grandma would put me in piano classes and put me in gymnastics and put me in karate. But one thing I learned in karate was, it's self-defense. Like if someone is attacking you, you have the right to defend yourself. And so that's what I would do. Like I had had enough, of taking it hit after hit, and abuse after abuse. Eventually I got tired of it and I would fight back. And this was when I was about like 15 or 16. And then around the same time when I was about 15 and 16, that's when my birth mother tried reaching out to me again to try to have like somewhat decent relationship with me as her eldest daughter. And when my grandma found out, and she was really jealous of the fact that, well, now my mom's in my life and trying to be in my life, and she thought that that was going to mess up the relationship I had with her, even though she's been the woman that's raised me all my life. So she was like, well, you want to know so much about her, you want to have whatever relationship you want with her, then go live with her. And so she kicked me out when I was 15, and I went and lived with my mom at the beginning of the school year. And I ended up moving up to Fort Wayne, where she was at, and which was another big cultural change because even though like I'm from like this central Indiana area, up northeast is a completely different ball game. And then it exposed me to so much more. And I wouldn't say that the experience in Fort Wayne was any better because there was a lot of like negative exposure, to like there was one time I was walking home because I had to walk home from school, and like this dude like slowly driving his truck like behind me, and then like pulled off to the side in like a ditch or something that like led down to this like grassy tree type like trench. And then he like pulled his truck over and then like just slowly started like following me, like walking behind me at a certain distance. And then like I would switch up like my different paths home. And another time was eventually he disappeared. Like one time I looked back and he just was like gone, just out of the blue. Because I think he knew that I knew that he was following, and after all the stuff that I had to do with my mom or my grandma, like I knew how to fight. Like I knew how to defend myself. So if you were trying to bark up my tree, you were barking up the wrong tree. So, but I think he kind of caught on to that vibe and just like left me and walked away. Yeah. And then so the man at the time that my mom was married to, that we lived with in this apartment, would wake me up in the morning because he would drop me off at school, and then I would have to walk home. But one morning when he woke me up, like, and I was only 16 at the time, like 15, 16 at the time, and like he would grope my behind. Yeah. Like trying to wake me up and stuff. And I'm like, oh no. And so like my immediate reaction when waking up out of sleep was just like to just swipe his hand away. Yeah. And so I went in there because like my mom was awake, and like I told her, I was like, dude, like your man just like groped your teenage daughter's behind. Like, and she didn't believe anything that I say. Oh, you're just making it up, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, you know what? Yep, I got to get out of here because like I'm not about to be in a situation like this. If this is what you want to expose your daughters to, like I'm better off without you in my life because this type of toxicity is not for me. And so there was a little bit more time that I spent with her, and then I ended up eventually going back to my grandma's house because like the last straw for me was when we moved to this small town just outside of Fort Wayne. And my youngest sister, who has ADHD and spectrum autism, she wanted to play like her Elmo game or something on the computer one day, and my mom was like in a mood and didn't want to have any of it and had an attitude. And so my little sister got on the computer anyways, even though my mom said no. And then my mom, out of pure rage, just went into the living room and picked my little sister up from her arm, like grabbed her around her wrist and just picked her up and just threw her out of the computer chair. And I was like, yeah, no, because if I would have killed her. Like, out of protecting my little sister, my little autistic sister, I just had to go.
And I feel like that's not a way. I mean, if she wanted her away from the computer, then
yeah, like there was definitely a better way to do it.
Yeah.
And so like and that's kind of like, even now, like when I lived with her in 2020, and I think that was like the last time that, like, you know, me and my mom tried reconciling our relationship. And I mean, the I know that the only reason why my mom had our youngest sibling was because of the disability check that she got off of her.
Oh.
And like, that's the unfortunate thing about it, because like, you know, as a kid, you kind of want to see the best in people, and you kind of want to see them like, okay, well, I know that you're a human and you make mistakes, and I understand that, and I'm going to try to give you a chance. But after so many chances, you just learn the truth about people.
Yeah.
And, you know, it was so sad for me as like a big sister, because even though I had to go back with my grandma and leave my little sister here, like it broke my heart to do that, because I knew that she was going to be, in a sense, like in the same situation I was with my grandma.
Yeah.
But like, I knew like trying to protect my sister probably would have like gone down the bad path with my mom. And so when I moved back with my grandma, this was in between the summer of my sophomore and junior year. And well, my grandma was so upset that I stayed with my mom for as long as I did. I think maybe 8 or 9 months I lived with her up in the northeast of Indiana, and she was just outraged. And so she would hit on me more, and she would abuse me more, and the fights got longer, and I started acting out more because of it. And you know, at this point I'm 16, like I want to like start dating, and I want to start like spending time with like my friends, like not just my guy friends, but like my girlfriends, and like doing stuff that teenagers do. But I couldn't do that. And I was in track and I was in basketball in middle school, and she took me out of that because she didn't want me to have a social life. And that also kind of like impacted me, because again, like I was already bullied in, you know, my elementary and middle school years, and like going to the same high school with these people, and still like being an outcast, so to speak. So it impacted me, but like also the abuse, like the stuff that the kids that were bullying me didn't know
what you were going through.
Exactly. Yeah. So it was kind of like more or less like I had 2 different types of bullies. I had kid bullies and I had like family bullies.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Which is not something easy to go through.
Oh, no.
And I can't imagine what women have to go through that, you know, are victims of rape and sexual abuse, because like the pain I already feel as like just being physically abused by my grandparents, and knowing later in life, like having conversations with my grandma and my mom as adults, and understanding that they themselves were raped as kids and molested as kids by their own family members. You know, like I can't imagine what women like that have to go through.
Oh, yeah.
You know, and the trauma that, you know, and I think as I grew up later on in life and had these conversations with my grandma, knowing the violent history that she came from and what she had, the abuse she had to endure as a kid, because that's what only her parents knew of their discipline and their disciplinary actions. And it kind of given me more of like a, not trying to point the finger at them, but like understanding the toxic pattern. And, you know, they were just trying to do their best. And, you know, in some cases, like, I appreciate, you know, what they did do for me, you know, like the times that I would act out and kind of rebel, like just having that extra discipline, you know, and sometimes getting whipped, because sometimes that's what kids need. And, but being a mother myself, I've kind of learned different ways to discipline, you know, because it doesn't have to be physical.
Yeah. I also feel like there's more help now. There's more help out there if you really need it. There's help where you can, I mean, just even trauma.
Mm-hmm.
Talk about a lot of mental health, a lot of ways to get that help.
Yeah.
As in before, I don't know if there was any
Yeah.
much or places where to go or what,
Yeah.
on how to cope with that.
Yeah, you're right. No, because I think now, like in 2024, for example, like doctors are more open to talk about, hey, do you need therapy?
Yeah.
If you need therapy, it's okay. Like we understand you go
Yeah.
through this, but this is what therapy does to help you. Or like what I like to do with people is I like to bring them to church because the best remedy you can have is Jesus.
Yeah.
And knowing that it's okay to be human, it's okay to have flaws, it's okay to be born in a world of sin, but just because you go through something doesn't mean that you have to stick with it for the rest of your life, and it doesn't mean that it has to eat away at you, because this is your past and this is where you come from and this is all of the bad things that want to carry you down. But when you have the right resources and you have the right people that talk to you and get the help you need. Because, for example, there's this one time, I was just randomly going to a gas station, not far from here, and just picking up a couple things, for the night. And I had noticed this lady, like, sitting outside of her car, and her babies were in the car and stuff like that. And her man was, like, pulling her out of the car and, like, trying to beat on her and stuff. Like, her 2 little boys are in the back seat. And she drove off, and I followed her. And just around the corner, and she kind of like parked her car and stuff like that. I'm like, are you okay? Like, I just saw everything that happened. Like, you don't need to be with the man that hit you. Like, are you okay? Do you need help? And she was like, I don't know what to do. Like, I just left him, and like, I love him. He's like the father of my kids, but like, I can't keep taking him beat on me. And I'm like, girl, I understand. I have been through that. And like, just giving her, like, I couldn't do anything more for her, but lead her in the right direction to like a Safeway house for families here in Lafayette. And I think that, as much help as there is, with resources now, versus like back when my mom was, a young single mom, or back when my grandma was going through her young single mom phase in the 50s and 60s and 70s, like, I think that there can be more resources.
Yeah.
Like right now we have like 2 houses for like the homeless.
Yeah.
But we only have 1 house for families, for single moms and their kids. And in that house you could only house 8 families. And that was actually something I had to go through during the beginning of the pandemic when I first moved back to Lafayette, after falling out with my mom for the last time. And so it was a struggle, but like being able to be led in the right directions allowed me to get the help. And, because, I was blessed, now it's, my turn to bless others.
Yeah.
And so every opportunity, even if it's just listening to a woman and giving her the confident space that she needs to talk about her trauma, because I had people like that was able to talk to me and allow me to vent and allowed me to, and I even went to therapy to get that help, to get that person that, can hear me out and tell me that it's okay to go through the things that I had to go through. And it's also okay to grow, and it's okay to turn a negative situation into a positive situation, which is what I've always been about. And another big like therapeutic thing for me was music, and to rely on music and the versatility of music. Sometimes I would listen to my Christian music, sometimes I would jam out to country music, sometimes I would jam out to my R&B stuff, my early pop. And then also the dancing, and like going to the middle school dances and being able to just be social and be out with friends. It's kind of like now as adults we have the clubs, and that was kind of like the first introduction to that for me.
Okay.
Yeah. So, and I think that like with music and dancing, it's always been very therapeutic for me.
For you. So that's what would help you get through all the stuff that you were going through.
Yeah. Because when I felt like, whether it was a radio station, whether it was like the music I was playing, or, something I would just hear and it would just like the lyrics would click to me, or the beat would click to me. I think that like in every way it would kind of like connect me to God. And just knowing that like through these, like I'm not the only one that has felt through this, I'm not the only one that has went through this. And just knowing that like there are other people out there that struggle and can relate to us, and just kind of just letting everything go. And so like I guess my love for music and dancing kind of like introduced me to the world of being an exotic dancer. So when I moved to Lafayette, I'd say back in 2016, 2017, I was working at a local car factory. And I mean, I loved my job there. I loved the people that I worked with at the time. But it was also a very difficult time because at the end of 2016, I lost my grandpa who had raised me, the one that I called dad,
Okay.
and he was like my best friend. And even though, like, we didn't share the same blood, we didn't share the same DNA, like, he was my step grandpa. Like, he was more family to me than my actual family was.
Yeah.
And even though my grandma was abusing me and beating on me, like, he was my guardian angel, even on the earth, and he would, speak up for me. And it was unfortunate because he would kind of get some of the abuse as well, like when he would stick up for me and stuff.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but like he was always there for me, like for me to talk to and stuff like that. And so, a lot of the ways that I've learned how to cope with the hardships of life is from my grandpa, and having that friend, that sometimes you need to just get through things and to vent to. And
Yeah.
I think that the good thing about humans is that like we are able to rely on each other. Whether they're friends or that become family, or they're actual family, or friends, families that kind of adopt you into their family,
Yeah.
like, and that's the beautiful thing about God's family is, we're all one big family. And that's like the great thing because like people help people, and having the compassion that we do, like understanding that circumstances aren't always the easiest, and whether it's good or bad, like I'm going to support you, I'm going to care about you, and I'm going to pray for you, and like make sure that like you're good and taken care of. And so in the club is kind of like where all of that started, because when my family found out that I was an exotic dancer, of course they kind of like shunned me out of the family again. And I wouldn't talk to my family for years, which was fine because like I'm the kind of person, if there's any type of negative energy, I'm gonna cancel that stuff real quick.
So did you hide that for a while, or did they know right away when you started doing that?
Well, I definitely wasn't shy about it, because I always had self-confidence, like, as a young adult, and especially being an exotic dancer, like, that self-confidence grew, and just this, like, the self-worth that I had for myself and the respect that I had for myself, it grew being a dancer. And so I definitely wasn't shy. And so, like I would have, like, family and friends and friends of my family that would be on my social media and stuff, or they would hear about it and stuff.
So you would
Yeah.
post things on
Yeah.
your
And this was like back in the day where like Facebook didn't have to report you every 3 days for nudity and stuff like that. So, it was more common and less kids back in those days. And so like it really didn't matter what you posted. So like, and that was just something that I always did, was just dance, and it was just with less clothes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it made you happy, but they weren't so happy to see you. So you were like, it makes me happy, so
yeah,
forget you guys.
Well, and I think that like also like a lot of the thing that my family came from is like greed and like money problems and stuff like that. Like they were all about money and stuff like that. And like even though I know that obviously money pays your bills, like money's not everything.
Yeah.
And like you're flawed, and you're human, and you're imperfect, and you do things that are bad, but yet you want to judge me for the route I choose to go in life, and you're going out to clubs every weekend and turning up with your friends and buying all this booze and stuff like that, but I'm doing the same thing but getting paid for it. Like there's a difference. And the way it started really was like when I worked at this car factory in town. Like I had met a real good friend there, that I still am friends with today, and like he told me like at the beginning of it, because me and one of my other coworker friends, like me and her would always dance in the aisles and stuff, like while we're putting up the parts and whatnot, and like we would just have a good time and enjoy the day. And like my guy friend was like, "Girl, like you know how to move, like you can make so much more money if you go like be a dancer versus like being here. Like you would make so much more money. Like you have rhythm and you can dance and you know how to groove." He's like, "Just do it." And I'm like, "No, like I am too shy. Like, I'm not the kind of person that's just gonna go and have a random conversation with an old man with a lot of money in his pocket. I just didn't know how to do that at the time.
Yeah.
And I was only like 20 at the time, so. But the more that I worked at this place and like, the more I kind of like grew tired of it and stuff. He was like, girl, like, come on, like, please, like, at least try it out for me. And I'm like, okay, fine. If you give me like a good dancer name, then I'll try it out. And he was like, okay, bet. Comes back a couple days later. He was like, how about honey or cinnamon? I'm like, no, like, that is like the clicheest like dancer name you could ever come up with. And he's like, okay, fine. I was like, you know me, like, I'm unique. Come up with something that's unique for me. And he was like, okay, fine. Comes back a couple days later. He was like, I've got it, but I want to tell you why first. I'm like, okay, go ahead. Let me hear this. And so he's like, for the time that I've seen you work here, you've worked harder than any other woman that I know. And you're like half my age. Me telling this to you. And like, you collect your check by any means. Like, you work and how many ever hours you need to take care of you, to provide for you. You are like the true definition of an independent woman, you know? And with that being said, like, your name is Cash. And I'm like, okay. Put instead of the S, put a $sign and I'll go try out. And so I did. I think that was like maybe a Wednesday or a Thursday. And so I tried out on a Saturday. I called and figured out what I needed to do, which was real simple. And it was kind of just like an audition, come in and do a couple songs and then find out if you make it, kind of like America's Got Talent or something.
So do they choose the songs, or you can choose what songs do you want to dance to?
It depends on the club that you work at, but luckily this club had a jukebox where the girls during the week could pick out their music and create their own vibe, which was kind of nice. So, I think, I can't remember what the other song was, but I remember when I first auditioned, one of the songs I danced to was one of the songs I danced to a lot as a teenager, and that was I'm in Love with a Stripper by T-Pain.
So they were playing it in there. You said they had a
jukebox.
Okay.
Well, it was kind of like an updated jukebox, and so it was like a touch screen, kind of like Touch Tunes. I think it's what it's called now, like in bars.
Yes.
So this is like when Touch Tunes was like not as well known as it is now.
Okay.
And so it was kind of exclusive, which was kind of cool. And I don't remember because you had to play 2 songs on your set and stuff, and I had like no like pole dancing experience whatsoever. I just went up there and did what I did in the closet at these middle school dances and stuff like that. And so I just did what I always did. But I can't remember what the other song was, but I just remember going up there, giving it my all, my 100% effort, and just getting off stage. And the bartender was actually the one that would either give you the yes or no if you made it or not. And so I came off and went back, got dressed, came out, and was like, okay, what's the final say? She's like, all right, here's the paperwork, fill it out and stuff, and the rest was history. And I think she allowed me to work that night or like the next night or something like that. No, it was that very night I was able to work. It's like because it was a Saturday and it was amateur night, which was also amazing to experience, because like people that like just come off the streets and come like dance on the stage. And,
so anyone can get up there and dance.
Like so like women can go up there and like try to like give it their best shot, and whoever like gets like the most like audience like feedback is the one that wins. And sometimes I think it was like $50 for like the winner. Yeah, but then like you had couple like amateur night as well, so you would have the singles go up first and then you would have the couples go up, and I think the couples would win like $100 or something.
So was it couples as in like the guy and the girl?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. And which was kind of cool too, because like you had like a lot of like especially like before COVID. So like when I started dancing, it was 2017, the beginning of 2017, and it was like, oh my goodness, it was a time to be a dancer. Like it was amazing, because like it was just a different kind of vibe, you know. And like so because of us also being like a college city, like you also have like these different people coming in and flying in from all over. And like there was times where I would listen to like music that, you know, people would vibe to, and come to find out that like they're football players or like they're basketball players or like, you know, and it's like stuff like that. So like the exposure was pretty cool, but like also like just the regular average Joes that would come in, you know, like they would have all kinds of stories, and like just being able to like be social, because I wasn't able to be social as a teenager. And so like now I'm being able to like turn from a caterpillar into a butterfly, so to speak. And I mean, it was definitely an eye-opener, because like you know, I'm just doing my thing and I'm dancing and I'm like learning pole tricks and stuff like this, and like it just kind of drew in the crowd that was right for me, you know. And other dancers, like they had like their vibe, their music that they danced to, and it would bring in their own crowd. And like one of the things that I loved most about like the ladies that I worked with was like we weren't shy with each other. And so like we would do sometimes like that girl on girl action on stage, and kind of get a rise out of the guys, and you know, have them participate more. And like the men, they weren't shy to go to the stage and to, you know, show their appreciation for you and make it rain on the stage. Like it was such a good time. Like and all of the stuff that like P Valley and stuff that you see now on TV, like that stuff really happened, but it was in a small like cornfield town, you know. And so like being able to experience that, and but that's like the beautiful thing I loved about it, because like the music that I would listen to is, you know, stuff that would capture other people's attention, you know, or stuff that they would vibe to, and like we would just become friends, you know, even if it was just for the night. And like the men that would come in frequently, the frequent flyers, like they showed their appreciation, but like women would have to go around and ask him for their tips. And, oh, did you see me dance? And would you like to tip me for my dance?
Yes. Or isn't that, what is it called? Like a walk? It has a name.
I don't know. I just know we would.
The strip walk? Where they're like...
Is that what it's called, really?
I don't know. I'm not sure. But it's like you walk around the tables, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
So like we would do our dances on stage, and then after our stage we would go around. But this is also like what I liked about it, though, as much as like some of the women didn't like doing it, like what I liked about it is that it would get you out of your comfort zone. And it would kind of break you out of that barrier of like staying to yourself, because you're out here making money, and you're only making the money that you make in tips. Like you're only making the money that you work for. You're not getting an hourly wage. And, you know, so what we would have to do is we would have to work for our money. And like me and my fellow dancer ladies, like we would work for our money, and like it would show, because like there would be times like where females had their stages covered in ones, and we were never like the kind of females, and I'm so thankful for this, because we were never the kind of females that was like, oh, I'm gonna steal your customer, and I'm gonna take your man, I'm gonna take your money too. Like, no, we would be like, yes, girl, yes,
like good for
like
you,
cheering them on.
Yeah.
And it was like a sisterhood of the traveling stripper shoes. Like it really was, because like when the customer saw that the girls were actually like friends and not just co-workers, like they would engage in their friends too. Like there was a lot of time like I had this friend, a real good friend of mine that I worked with at the club, and she had this customer that would literally come in every day that she worked, and I mean spend hundreds of dollars on her. And like there would be a couple times like where like he would give her like 20 in ones or something like that, and like she would go throw some on me, and when I was up on stage and stuff like that, and you know, sometimes he would go up there with her and throw some money on another woman, you know, another friend and stuff like that. Like, and we all kind of like stuck to ourselves, like the ones that had their head on their shoulders, we would all have like our own little clique.
Okay.
And so like the ones that like were kind of like rotten, and I don't want to say like rotten as in like they just like did the wrong things and made us like look bad. And like, I mean, they were good women, you know, don't get me wrong, like they were sweet souls, but like when it came to like the money game, they weren't trying, like they were the type of females that would try to steal your customers and stuff like that, or get jealous because of how much money you were making or how much money you had thrown on your stage, and you know, like the catty kind of girls. And like some of the like OG dancers that was at the club, like we would not like we didn't care about that. Like we all made our money, we all had our good nights and our bad nights. But these women just they wouldn't stay long. They wouldn't last long at the club because again there was a certain vibe and like luckily the club that I worked at was woman owned and operated. So like yeah,
nice.
so she was an older lady and like she was really short, but like she was real feisty. And like when she walked in the club, like she was the boss. She was the HBIC.
Was she also a dancer?
I think in her younger years she was. Yeah, and so like there were at one point in time in town there were like 3 different clubs, but the other 2 like somehow like closed down. And so the club that I started working at was the only one left. So like we had no competition, which was good because everybody from the other clubs that would be like frequent flyers there would come here and give us all their business. And so I think she like worked like I think it was like a whole family owned and operated, and I think it started like downtown and then it moved out to where it is now. And I mean she kind of like her family owned and operated it, and then eventually she took over. But yeah, she had her heyday.
And what was like the most amount you made in one night?
So in one night I think I made at the club in a small cornfield town, I think I made $1,000
in one night.
Yeah, but then like I left that night and made $2 more $1,000, one for my friend and one for myself.
And just you dancing, or was it like also, because I know there's private dancing, like where you go to a room, someone takes you and you do a private dance.
Yeah. So this was kind of like our after hours, like a private dance, like invite only kind of thing.
Okay.
So like, and what I loved about the private dancing, speaking of which, is that one-on-one connection, you know, and that intimacy. And what I've learned being a dancer is like the more you tease, it's like the more that they want it, you know. But like if you give all the goodies at once, you know, if you if you give them the heifer but not to milk, but they're not paying for that heifer, like it eventually it burns out quicker. You know, if you give it away too easily, they're like, okay, I already had you, I'm on to the next one and see if she'll do it or see if this one will do it. And so, like, I wasn't that type of girl and I would let them know. And it was so amazing because, like, even in private dances, like, there would be times where we would have couples that would come in and they were very open to, like, you know, having a good time. And so the women weren't as shy or as intimidated or just kind of standoffish about the whole fact of, like, oh no, my man can't go back there and I don't want to go back there, so we're just here to have, you know, drinks or whatever. No, there would actually be like women that would be like, okay, yeah, no, let's go. Like, oh, you can do couples dances? Okay, well, let's go. How much is it? Okay, it's like $20 a piece.
Okay.
So like, and so like half of that would go.
So they were open to that.
Yeah, and like it was amazing. It was so much more fun when like the women, the wives, the girlfriends weren't involved. Because like, you know,
when they were?
Yeah. Okay. Absolutely. Because so, and it's kind of like the ladies at the dancers at the club, you know, we're already doing this girl on girl action. And of course, like, we're not like afraid of each other. And so like when, you know, you take the husband and the wife back there, like you're able to have fun with both of them.
Yeah.
And like what I did personally was, so there were like couches and stuff like on either side of the room that I would take them into. And they would sit across from each other. And so like first I would, because you always got to start with the lady.
Okay.
You always.
Why though? Why?
So the reason why you have to start with the lady first is because whatever she says goes.
Okay.
And you have to give her the respect of like, this is y'all's covenant relationship. This is y'all. Like, trust me, I don't want your man. I don't need your man. I'm going to go home single and happy tonight. Like, y'all are going home together. And, like, my goal was, like, to get them so aroused that they would go home and do it.
Yeah.
Do their own thing, you know? And so, like, that's what I would do when I would take them back there. Like, I would always start with the lady first.
Okay.
You know, because you have to build that confidence because you don't want the lady to leave insecure. You don't want them to feel like, oh, my husband's about to cheat on me with a stripper.
Yeah. Or like make her think that you're gonna lean more towards him than not leaving her out.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. And I think that also helps with like when you kind of focus on the woman Of course you have the man, but like we deal with men all the time, all kinds of different men. And so like it's so much more funner as a woman because like, okay, well like if I'm this open, if I'm this free with like my like womanhood and embracing it and stuff, now I can do it with another woman. Like it just made it so much more funner because like you're females, you know, and like because we dealt with so many men, you know, time and time again. But then also like when you're over here doing this female on female action with someone's wife, gets that man so aroused, you know, and he's going, he's having a good time because he's seeing his wife enjoying herself and having a good time with another female. Like that is like a lot of men's fantasies, and for some women it's their fantasies too. And so it was always a good time, but then like, you know, you would go back and forth. You know, you would give the lady a lap dance and then you would hop over to the man's lap and, you know, do some things and everything. But like, you never take your focus off the woman. Yeah. Because you want her to know that she's still involved. It's kind of there. I don't know if you've ever had a threesome, but it's kind of like having a threesome with your clothes on. So, yeah. It's definitely an experience, but
so did you ever have a threesome?
I've had
with one of your with
none of my customers. But like I've been in situations where like it just the right time at the right place with the right people and you just have a good time. So many drinks, you know, like just lead to whatever happens. And I mean, as long as like all of the adults are consensual and like so there was one time like I had a really good friend of mine when I was actually a dancer, and he would come into the club all the time, and there was a couple of times he brought in like his baby mamas or whatever, and one of the baby mamas, she was a heavier set lady, but it was like her birthday or something, like I'm having a good time with her and stuff like that, and he's like, man, throwing some ones, and she's throwing some ones, and like we're all having a good time because like me and him's the homies. Yeah. And like I've always like, you know, like had a good friendship with him, but now introducing to the baby mama starts taking a liking towards me because she likes girls too. And so we go back there and we do a couples dance and everything like that. And she's like, yeah, girl, like this is so amazing. Like I've never like had such a good time. You've got such a big old butt. And I'm like, okay, thank you, girl. But can we talk about your tatas real quick? Can we talk about your chichis? Because Lord have mercy, you know? And so like when you give the confidence that you give yourself, like with other women, like that boosts their confidence a little bit, you know? Because God makes women as masterpieces. Like, I don't think there is a woman on earth. Now, if you have, like, an ugly inside, like, if your attitude is ugly, then I don't care how beautiful you are. Yeah. So, but no, like, she was really awesome. Like, she was just, like, a really good-hearted person. And then, like, she was like, yo, baby daddy, we gotta take her home. And so, like, after so many shots of tequila, I'm like, okay, let's go home. Like, I don't care what happens. It's your birthday. And I mean, it was my friend. And, like, her birthday wish was me. And so, like, that's what it was. And so, like, we had a great time.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, yeah. But, like, it was, like, I don't even remember how many threesomes I've had, but I've had threesomes with like other women, but I've also had threesomes with other men too. Like two men. But, like the men never touch, but like yeah. Okay. Which is personally like very satisfying. Like when you have two men at a time or two females at a time. It's just a good time.
When it's two females, it makes you three females.
No, like a male and two females.
Okay, I see. Okay.
And then with two males and a female. Okay. But yeah, like there was so the first threesome I ever had was when I was like 16. Oh. I was dating someone that was like 21, 22 at the time. He was a few years older than me, and he kind of just introduced me to like his lesbian friends and stuff like that. And it was like the first time I've really been exposed to like exotic dancers, and like his sister had brought her boyfriend, who brought a friend, who brought his girl, who was a dancer, and like I mean she was really cute. Like I wasn't gonna lie, and like my boyfriend at the time was like, man, like you gotta let her like try to do stuff with us, like persuade her, kind of like talk her into it and stuff, because I know it'll be a good time. And like she's like, no, I can't, I'm too shy, and I'm here with him, da 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 da. And like after a few drinks, you know, like it just kind of was just like let loose, and it happened. And well, the unfortunate thing was it was supposed to be a foursome, but her man couldn't do his thing, so it just turned up into a threesome. Yeah. I think they call it like whiskey D or something like that.
I don't know.
Yeah, I'm glad I don't have that problem. I don't think I've ever gotten that drunk, but I mean, it was still a good time. Like, it ended up just being me and her and my ex at the time, and like, it was so funny because like the next day, like his other like friend, like we ended up doing something as well. Like, it was just like the party was still going and stuff, but like being able to have all these experiences that I've had have kind of helped me, in a sense, be the dancer that I was, because I was so open, you know, and even though like I prefer men, like of course I love me some men, but like I also love women, you know, and like knowing that like they love themselves and they're confident in themselves and they're okay with their sexuality. Not being afraid of saying, yeah, like I love men, but like I love girls too.
Yeah.
You know, and that was kind of like the exposure I got with like my dancer friends, is because like we wouldn't be afraid to motorboat each other and like, you know, like smack each other on the butt or whatever and do what we did on the stage, and you know, and that got the arousal of men. And so like when we did these private dances like in the club, like that's the same energy, you know, that you would have with the couples and stuff. And I mean, they ultimately would have a good time. And then sometimes there were times where we would do couples dances, but with like 2 dancers.
Oh.
Yeah, which was a great time. Like, you talk about that kind of foursome. Oh my goodness, yeah.
So how does that work? Like, that person has to pay both the dancers? Okay.
Oh yeah, you best believe the dancers are gonna
they
their
each
checks.
have their, okay.
So, like, if it was just me, like a solo dancer dance with a couple.
That's all for you.
Right. We would pay the house fee. So basically they would take half and we would get the other half. So they would take their portion and we would get our portion of the couples dance. Now if there were 2, like let's say for example for a couples dance it would be $40. You would go up to the house fee. The gentleman or the lady would pay the house fee for one girl and they would get their cut. I would get my cut. And we'd go back there and do our thing. But with 2 strippers, you would have to pay both of their fees. So instead of paying $40, you would pay $80.
Okay.
And of course, like, I mean, you're still helping out a dancer, you know what I'm saying? So, like, it is what it is, but, like, you still had a good time because, again, like, us women, us dancers, at my club at least, like, we got along. Like, we didn't care to make our money, and, you know, because that's kind of what I loved about it, because it wasn't, like, greedy, you know? It was, I'm going to take mine, you can have yours. Like, we got money together, you know, and like that's the best way to come up is to bring others up with you. So
only when it was a private dance you would have to give half to the house, or also when you were just dancing?
Yeah, so whatever we collected on stage was ours.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, but we would still have to pay like house fees, and like we would have to tip our bit. Like we would have to pay our bartenders. It was only like $5. Like during the week, it was only like $5 for the like.
So
for
no matter
fees.
what, you pay the house.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So there was like and like the contract that you signed. Of course, you're an independent contractor, you know, but like you would still have to pay. It's kind of like a barber, like when they like rent out a chair. Yeah, exactly. And so we would have to pay the house fee. We'd have to pay their cut. I think like during the week it was like $20 or $25 or something like that. But that's also for the security, that's the house fee, and that's the bartender fee. Okay. You know? And so like whatever money you make, like let's say house fee was $25 on a Thursday, but on a Thursday I would be able to pull in like $400. Okay. $25 ain't nothing if I make $400. But there would also be days where we would be negative and we would like owe the house fees because it would be so dead, or it, you know, like there wouldn't be any people. And we've like I've experienced that personally. Like all of us women, we would be sitting around from like 9 o'clock at night to like 3 o'clock in the morning with like no money made, and we would still have to pay the house fee. Yeah. Wow. Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean,
you would think they'd be like, "Oh, hey, don't pay tonight because you didn't make any tonight."
No, it's like rent. You better come with collect, like, and that's kind of like what I would do, like, because you like as you're coming in to start your shift, like, you know, they would check you, make sure you didn't have any metal thing or like any guns or anything on you. And so they would check you. The security would check you in real quick, and then you would go back. But like before I go back to the dressing room to like get ready and stuff for the night, like I would always pay my house fee. Like if I was able to, I would always pay my house fee in advance because I wouldn't have to worry about it because every dollar that I made that night was already mine because I already paid my house fee. I didn't have to worry about it.
Okay.
Now sometimes like on the weekends it's more expensive. And because there's more workers, like there's more waitresses, there's more bartenders, there's more security on staff, but that's because the weekends are always super busy.
Okay.
So, which it made sense. And then also like on the weekends we had like a live DJ, and like the live DJ would like play music and stuff. And so like the fortunate thing was is even though like we had a live DJ, like he would go according to like the ladies' taste in music.
Yeah.
You know, and he would try to play stuff and artists and songs that the woman would dance to normally if it was her like day of like playing the jukebox, for example.
So the DJ would choose your songs.
Yeah, like we would have our playlist.
Oh,
and he'd be like,
give him a playlist?
Yeah, give me some songs, give me some artists that you vibe with, and I'll put on your queue. And when it's your time to go up, like I'll play whatever I can and shuffle and stuff. Which was
so
good.
How long is one like you dancing in the pool? How many like minutes do you have?
So I would say like give or take like 5-6 minutes. So and like especially on the weekends, like that time goes by so fast.
Yeah. So you like alternate, like each have like 5 to 6 minutes, and then the next one comes up, and then another 5 to 6.
Yeah.
And then they just go around, and then it's your turn again after they all
Yeah, we would write our name on the board, so like that would be like the order that we would go in. You know, whoever would come in first would start first, and whoever's last is at the bottom, and then just go starts off from the top.
Okay.
And especially on the weekends, if like we had a lot of women dancing on the weekends, especially when it was busy, we would like pair up. Because it would be 2 stages, and so we would like one would be on one stage, one would be the other, and like the next time y'all go up, you swap stages.
Okay.
So like you can kind of like interact with the crowd that's on the other side of the room rather than just being stuck, and kind of just exposing yourself to the people in the crowd that kind of attract to your vibe, your music, your dance routine. Like if they like your dancing routine, then of course they're gonna go up to the stage and they're gonna show you a good time, and of course. Sitting at the stage is a whole nother trip. Yeah. Like that's probably one of my favorite things that I loved about being a dancer is just being able to dance in front of these people, and like you feel like a musician. Like if you ever have gone to a concert.
Yeah.
Have you ever gone to a concert?
Yeah.
Yeah. And have you ever been like so close to the stage where like you can feel them like sweat dripping off of them?
Yeah.
Like. That's kind of how it's like felt, especially like when you're wearing stiletto heels, like that girl. And there are some girls that I dance with. Their pole tricks are like phenomenal. Like they were like acrobats.
How many inches is one? Like
so some come as like small as like I think like 3 inches, and then there are some women that have worn stilettos with like 9-inch heels. Yeah, 9-10 inch heels.
So what size were yours?
Mine was somewhere in between. I've had 6-inch heels and I've had 9-inch heels, but nothing lower than a 6-inch heel.
Wow.
Yeah. That's probably why my feet hurt now. Like being older and stuff. Like I think they call it like dancer's knee or something like that because like you're always on your.
I've heard that.
Yeah, like because of like always being on your feet and stuff like that.
And like you have to be strong to hold your body up and. Yeah. Would you like do all the
Yeah. So it definitely took a lot of upper body strength, but like also like me being a thicker woman, like I had a lot of like lower body strength. And like when I returned to dancing, like after I had my first child, that's actually like how I lost a lot of that weight. Like I mean I continued to eat the same way. Like my diet really didn't change, and I cook like a lot of like good southern like dishes and stuff, and so like of course there's like starches and whatnot, and I would eat out. So like my diet didn't change, but like all of the exercise that I did, just pole dancing alone, I lost like 30 pounds after my first kid. Like, and so like I would do pole tricks, and of course like to climb up the pole you have to use your arms, but like I would drop and I would hang from my legs, and so I also had to have like not just upper body strength, but lower body strength too. You know, and like some of these girls, like, I mean, the reason why they maintain their figure is because of like the extra pole tricks that they did, not just the dancing, but like pole dancing is phenomenal because it is a way of exercising. And like that's the way I looked at it. Like, you know, being in gymnastics as a kid.
Yeah.
It's kind of like the same thing, like, but instead of the horizontal bars, you're on a vertical bar now, you know, but it's kind of like the same thing, which, I mean, I enjoyed it because, like I said, that's what kept my figure going.
When you went for your tryout, did they make you like swing and climb and all that? No. Okay.
No.
Just dance.
Yeah. So I mean, well, if I wanted to like dance on the pole and stuff like that, like of course I could have utilized it, but like it was really more or less of like whatever I was comfortable with.
Okay.
You know, and which was good because like I didn't learn like pole tricks until like maybe like within like 3 months is like when I really started getting the hang of the things that I did on the pole.
Okay.
Yeah.
So how did you learn? Like, what was your first thing that did somebody show you how, or like did you just watch and learn, or?
Yeah, well, it was a little bit of both. So like on the slower days, like when we didn't make a lot of money, like a lot of girls would just practice, and like also there would be like the opportunity of like the girls that's been around for a while to like help educate the women. And like, I mean, I even did it like when I was an OG, and like I had more experience and I was like one of the girls that was more well known in the club. Like I would help out the younger girls, and I'd be like, yeah, you would hold the pole like this and you would put your leg like this, and you know, and you would do stuff like this. And so, and it's also kind of like not just like the education and the teaching that they would give, but also just watching and learning, because like, I mean, some of these women were like doing phenomenal pole work and just being like, yeah, like that's what I want to do. And so like you would watch them and you observe, and then you would also like try it yourself and figure out what tricks and pole dances and routines work best for you. So, and that's kind of how I learned. And of course, like me being like a thicker built woman, like, and the thing that I loved about the club that I worked at was they didn't discriminate you because you weren't skin and bones.
Yeah.
Like they embraced your figure for who you were. As long as you had rhythm and you knew how to dance and you know how to work the stage and you had that confidence, that sex appeal, then by all means, like they embraced it. And I loved it because I wasn't the only thicker girl that was there. Like I wasn't the only chubby girl or the one with weight. Like there was a couple other women that were thicker built, and I mean, of course, there were women that were like super skinny, and so like the fact that we had a little bit of versatility within the women, like it also like attracted that kind of crowd, that because maybe, you know, men may like them skinny, men might like more meat on their women. So and that was,
and I admire that about you. Like you were like, I don't care. Yeah,
girl, look, I've learned to embrace my fupa. Okay,
I admire that about you. Like that's really good.
Yeah, well, and a lot of it comes from being a dancer, like especially like, you know, being a mom and having 3 kids. Like I've learned through the confidence that I've built as a dancer is like either you're gonna love me for like the figure that I made, you know, or like this is how I'm created, you know. And I mean, I've met women that I've worked with that, you know, have gotten plastic surgery and you know, have gotten like a bigger tatas or like a BBL or something like that. And I'm like, you know what, if that's all for you and you can afford it, like more power to you. But like I am more of like the embrace your natural beauty, you know, and like working out and stuff. And so like my goal to get rid of all this fupa and get back in shape is to like have a like either find like a pole dancing class like in town or like maybe in Indianapolis or something, or just finding a pole that fits in my house and just doing it in my house. And like I've thought about like doing like a more intimate kind of like strip club, but like on my terms. You know what I'm saying? Like if you want to have like a private dance or something, that's fine. Like I have everything set up in my house, but like
come over.
Like, and you don't have to deal with all the chaos and stuff at like the club, you know. And I think like with the pandemic and everything, because like when I had my son, I was in college, and that kind of took me away from the club for a while because like being a new mom and stuff. But when I came back after the pandemic, And I had to wait, I think, because I tried going back like right before, but then like the pandemic hit and it went crazy. And so I had to wait like maybe 7 months before the clubs actually reopened, because like the club had to be closed because of like that's how we made our money, like was physical contact. And here the government is telling us that we can't have any kind of physical contact with anybody, not even our family. So it was in July of 2020 that the club opened back up, but it was just a different vibe.
Yeah,
Like
not the same anymore.
Yeah, it was, and I mean, like people would still come in, that probably hadn't been to the club in a long time, and they were like regulars or something like that. And there was a lot of times where like customers would come in, clients would come in and be like, "Oh my goodness, I can't believe you guys are still open. Like, I'm surprised it's even open," because like even though like at this time we would have to wear masks and stuff.
So you guys would have to wear masks as well? Wow.
Yeah. So when we reopened after the pandemic, it was like the later half of 2020, and I think like the vaccine came out like a few months later, or like the beginning of 2021. So like we still had to like take our precautions, and like we had to be safe, because of course we don't want to like
expose
our customers, especially because some of the customers were older, older men, but they had bigger pockets, so we don't discriminate. Yeah. So, but it was definitely different, because like I think the adjustment was like men being isolated in their houses, not having any companionship, not having a wife, or maybe being with their wife for 7 months in their house just kind of drove them crazy. And so like coming back to the club, they're like, okay, well, we know it's been a minute. I know you've been struggling, so let's go do some extra stuff. And like that's kind of like why I quit going to the club, because they would always try to make you do the most for the least. They would be like, okay, I'm going to pay you for a lap dance, but can I get a lap dance? No. And so like I would always keep it professional. And like some of the women, like if that's what they want to do, like I said, like that's more power to them, more kudos to them, make your money. I'm not mad at you. But for me personally, that's just not how I roll. Yeah. And so like, I mean, like there were still good times and stuff at the club, but it was just different after, and like being more focused on the greater impact that I wanted to do, and like like going through homelessness and struggling throughout the pandemic and before the pandemic, and and coming out of that season into the season where I've been more stable these past few years, and kind of just figuring out like where God is wanting to lead me, because like when I became a mother, like I really got a lot closer to God, because I understood him as a parent. Me becoming a parent myself with my newborn son, and going through the trials and tribulations like as a mom with his father, because like I wanted to be a cordial co-parent with him, and even though it didn't work out in the relationship, like we still had a kid, and I was thankful for that, because I was never supposed to have a kid, like period. Now here I have 3. I'm blessed with 3 beautiful kids. But that's not the ideal that my son's father had in mind. And so it was kind of like, and it's been a struggle just kind of balancing that. And, like as a parent, especially as a single mother, like you have to make sacrifices. And that was one of them, because, like he would throw it in my face a lot.
That
like,
you were a stripper?
Yeah. Oh, she's a bad alpha parent, because she can't be a good mom to my kid because she's a stripper. She's a dancer. But like that's what fed my kid when he would miss on child support payments, And so like even though it's kind of like adoption, where people look at it in a bad light and they think it's all bad, but like it actually is good in a sense, as long as you're doing it the right way, as long as you have the best intentions. Like being a dancer is one thing that I'm not ashamed of. Like, I mean, that was a chapter in my life. That was a book in my life. And like here I am on a new chapter, on a new book.
Yeah. How many years were you doing that for?
I think as a dancer, off and on, I was a dancer for about 5 years.
Okay.
No, 6 years, because I retired in 22.
Okay.
Yeah.
So after COVID, you still
I danced a little bit. That's actually where I met my eldest daughter's father. Was in the club. Yeah. He was one handsome Puerto Rican, let me tell you. So, and he was about twice my age, but like he just carried himself really well. And the way that the Puerto Rican girl. He had like the curliest hair. Oh my goodness. But then like he took me because he's
so like Bad Bunny.
Kind of, sort of, yeah. Kind of, sort of. But like Bad Bunny's dad. Like,
okay.
That was the vibes. Like if he had if he had a hot dad, that was
that. Is that?
Yeah. And he was like so tall. Like, now don't get me wrong, like I love all my like Latino friends and stuff in my life, but like we're all short. Like Latinos, Mexicans, like they're all very short. But like this dude was like 6'2", 6'3", 6'4".
Okay.
And like so he had like some like weight, like some height to him. And it was just like it was different for me, and like just like the like even though like it was very similar to like what I'm used to with like my Latino friends and my Mexican friends, like the Puerto Rican culture is just a little bit different.
Yeah.
Like when he took me down to Tampa to meet like his mom and stuff like that. Like he introduced me to like the different like Puerto Rican like parts of Tampa, and like introduced me to mofongo, which is like, oh my goodness, like this really good type of food. Yeah. So it was like and he would make it like homemade sometimes too. It was like deep fried plantains, I think it was. Yeah, it was deep fried plantains, and like you would put it in one of them like mashing bowls, like how you do with like spices and herbs, and you would just mash it up, and then you would mash it all together. It would like a little plantain patty. And like it was deep, like once you like crush it up or whatever, you would like deep fry it again, and it was like it was so much grease, and then like you would dip it in. It's kind of like the parrilla tacos.
Okay.
Yeah, but it was like this like just big old like platter of like plantain, like fried plantains, and you would dip it into this like really good like greasy juice type thing. So good. And they would serve it with rice and stuff. So yeah.
So was that the only person that you were attracted to while you were a dancer? Or was there others?
There were a lot of attractive men.
Okay.
Yeah.
But that you got involved with, like...
Not... So there were quite a few. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I went through my whole phase. Like, I definitely, like, experimented with, like, just being open, like, with my sexuality and stuff like that. And, like, me being as a single woman, like, and not knowing any better, like, that's just, like, what I did.
Yeah.
You know? And... But, like, it was always, like, safe, and it was with protection. And,
yeah.
Like, I would kind of, like, try to get to know you as, like, a friend first before I'm like, okay, like, is this going to go any further? So, like, it took some time before it got to that point, but definitely there were some clients where, like, I just, like, clicked to.
Okay.
And they clicked to me, and that's just what it was.
So what was one good experience that you keep from being a dancer?
I think one of the best things that I keep is the people that I've met. I mean, and there's a lot of good things about being a dancer. Not just the money that you make, or you never know who's going to walk through those doors. You know, it can be a musician, it can be a celebrity, it can be a baller, or it can just be a regular smuggler Joe that has a lot of money.
Yeah.
And no attention. But I think, like, the biggest thing I walk out with is the people and their stories and their walks in life. You know, because at the end of the day, like, and this is, like, one of the biggest things, especially being a dancer named Cash, like, people kind of get the wrong impression of me, you know, because they think, oh, well, your name is Cash, so all you care about is the money.
Yeah.
And, like, that's just not who I am, you know. And when you actually get to learn about these people and you know them for the person that they are versus the size of their pocket, for example, like, you actually create true friendships with people, and, you know, you have some, like, really great stories that, like, you know, if, let's say, for example, like podcasts nowadays, you know, like, you have these high A-list celebrities talking about whatever, and personally, I don't think it's as entertaining or it's not as amusing to me as the conversations I've had with clients and learning about, like, the experiences, because you have a lot of businessmen, you have a lot of men that travel for work, you know, and they just kind of want to take some ease off of their stressful work day, and they come to the club, and, you know, because they they can confide in dancers, and they can confide in the fact that like privacy is key, and like you're not gonna like go try to hunt down this woman that is like this wife or this girlfriend or whatever, and like tell them, oh yeah, well, they're at the club and da, da, da. Like these people are human, and just having the experiences with them, especially like people that are local, because now like since I've been out of the club almost 2 years, 2.5 years, I've met these people like in real life situations, like like where I work at now. I was helping out one of the warehouses locally and whatnot, just trying to get some overtime. And it just so happened that like one day as I was walking in for my shift, this gentleman was walking out, and I knew him because he was a regular at the club. He wasn't a big tip or anything, and like never really vibed with me, but like he would always give like other girls money and stuff like that. But generally, like deep down, he was a good guy. And like just being able to see him outside of the club and like in a work situation, it's kind of like made our friendship like that much more impactful. Like even though like we don't see each other every day, we know what's up when we see each other. Like we have that connection. And it's so funny because even like now, a gentleman that I work with like in my department, he was actually like one of my favorite clients because like, girl, I'm telling you, this man was obsessed with me. Like he just loved everything about me. Like he would cash out on me. He would like take me back like to the private dance, but not like the cheap $20 dances. He would go for like the 30-minute and the hour. Like he would spend so much money on me. And now it's like I see him and like I work with him every day, and sometimes like he still slips up and call me Cash instead of like calling me by my real name. So you still see him? Yeah, every day. I work with him every day in my department. Yeah, and it's really amazing because like at the time like he had just lost his wife. I think she had cancer or something, and she passed away, and he was really heartbroken by that. And he had a twin brother, and both him and his twin just went out one night just having a good time at the club, and that's how we met. I sat on his lap, and he had like really bad back pain. He was like I sat on his lap. He's like, oh my goodness, ow. And I'm like, oh, I'm so sorry. Like he's like, no, don't worry about it. He's like, well, all that ass, I don't care. Like you can sit on me anytime, sweetheart. So. And it was just so funny, but that's how life works out. Yeah. That's the crazy thing about life is you never know what path you're gonna walk down, what path is for you. But when you walk down the one that is for you specifically, like you make these type of friendships and you meet good, genuine people. And like that's the good thing about like average Joes and just like regular schmegler workers, and having a community, and being able to be social and being able to get out there and kind of just have a free spirit that the club allows you to have.
Yeah. And that's crazy that you like again see him.
Yeah.
After like, was there a gap in between?
Oh, definitely. So this was, I think, in 2020 or 2021. Like it was like right before I stopped dancing that I saw him briefly. And then I got pregnant again and I went MIA. And I just like quit the club altogether after my second child. And so I hadn't seen him since like maybe 2021.
And now you see him again.
Yeah. And it's so crazy because like it's like if you ever meet someone for so quick and they're like, oh, you're out of their life forever. But then it's like, what are the odds that we meet each other again?
Yes. That's why it's crazy that you like again see him.
Yeah.
And like in a totally different way now because like it's not the same place where he saw you the first time.
It's with more clothes on.
It's like,
yes. So, and I mean that's good, but like also like he like and like we've been able to catch up, like as if we had been friends this whole time and been talking this whole time, and like just being able to catch up with him. And not only just catch up with him, but like, like he remembered stuff about my life that like I totally forgot I shared with him. He's like, oh yeah, by the way, how's your son? And this, that, and the other. And like how are things been? Like, where have you been? Like, what have you been doing since I saw you last at the club? And like, oh yeah, like I'm just in this, and this is what's caught up, and this is what's going on. And no, I don't dance anymore, but like obviously I'm here, so I'm doing good for myself. I don't need to dance anymore. And I've kind of like settled down a little bit in my life and just focused on being a single mom. And like I remember things about like the more like he would remember about me, like the more I would like go back to that time. Because sometimes like it's still a hard part of my life to revisit, because like although there were like a lot of good times, there were a lot of bad times, and there were a lot of like crazy situations and scenarios, you know, like there were sometimes people got so drunk that they would have brawl out fights, and you know, sometimes on rare occasion there would be a gun involved, and and so like our security guards were like some real noble men. Like they didn't need any type of weaponry to make their point known. Like all they had to do was use their fist, throw you which way or the other, break up the situation, and like throw you out the door, kick you off the curb, call the cops. Like the cops like knew like if we were calling them, it was for a good situation. So like there was always protection for women, and at the end of the night, like our security guards were such gentlemen that like they would always walk us to our cars. Like a woman never walked, even if she had like an Uber or a taxi or something, she never walked outside by herself, because you would have those scragglers that would be out waiting, you know, saying, "Hey girl, do you need a ride?" And you just got off work. No, we didn't play with that, you know, because we had such good security guards. But there was one time where like a dancer overdosed. Like I think she got like someone had slipped something into her alcohol drink, and that's why like it's very like. And so the club that I worked for was actually like really good about like monitoring that and making sure like it didn't happen, because you know, like if we don't have any dancers, they're not getting paid. You know what I'm saying? The bills aren't getting paid. Their bills aren't getting paid at home. And so like even though like the dancers would get kind of like we would like, even though like we were the ones that were making the money, we were still kind of discriminated against, because like, oh yeah, well, we're the ones out there like selling our body and this, that, and the other. But like nevertheless, like we were still respected because we were the breadwinners. We brought the money in, of course. Like that's what a strip club is for. But there was one time where it just so happened it was like a busy Saturday or Friday night or something, and someone had slipped something into a dancer's drink, and they went back to the back and had a private dance, and like literally in the middle of the private dance, this girl like just like flopped over on the couch, and like the dude like it was so crazy. The dude literally left her in the room by herself, like in the private room in the back. Yeah, like nothing happened. Like the dance was done and over with, and that was it.
So was it him that did that to her?
Yeah, yeah. And I can't remember if like he stuck around or if he just like completely left altogether. But like they had to call the ambulance and stuff because she wasn't breathing.
Wow.
Yeah, and it was so scary because like, you know, and I think that like she was on her period, and so like they pulled out her tampon, and I think they like set her after she like
passed out,
knocked out. Yeah, and
in the private room.
Yeah, and it was so sad because like in a small town in the middle of cornfields, you would think that something like that would never happen to you, because this is the kind of stuff that you hear at like the bigger cities like Chicago, New York, LA, Miami, but like never in a small town like this. But like, yeah, it does happen. And like when it's someone that you care about, when it's someone that you work with all the time, like it just hits different, you know. And you know, thank God that like, you know, someone found her in enough time and was able to get like the right help in the right amount of time, that like she didn't like die or anything like that. But like she was gone for a while, and like just being like, I'm pretty certain like she didn't come back. Like after that whole situation, which was totally understandable. Yeah. But like her being assaulted and drugged like that, like it's just so heartbreaking to see another woman go through that. Yeah.
Did you ever experience anything like that?
There were nothing that severe happened to me, but there were times where like men like you would take them to the back, and like they would be so belligerently drunk that like they would try to have their way with you,
like force you to do
all kinds of things. And like there was one time like where this dude was so drunk, and like he just kept whipping it out, and yeah, girl, just like whipping it. And like I'm over here like I don't like to look at men because sometimes they're ugly or like their breath stinks or something like that. Yeah, you know. But like you had to,
because you're not there to see that. You're there to do your dance, not to.
Yeah, you know. Because like, you know, they're like trying to like lick all on your chi-chis and stuff like that, and like try to like do some extra stuff, and we're just like trying to be respectful and like look. And I would always tell them at the beginning, like before I'm laying down some ground rules. Like, I don't care if you touch me, but no licking. You know what I'm saying? Because if I allow you to lick something, then another guy's gonna expect me to lick. And I just don't want I don't want to go home with a bunch of men's saliva on me at the end of the night.
Yeah.
You know? So keep it respectful, keep it professional. But like, you know, you can still touch, because there are some clubs, I know on the East Coast, that like you can't touch women at all, but they're nude clubs. And especially at nude clubs, like you couldn't touch a women at all. But like, because here in Indiana, we do like at least like 2 pennies, and like you can have like a topless strip club. That's all you can do, but like you can have a little bit more action involved, like, and more touching and stuff like that. But some men trying to take it too far, and some men would like try to whip it out or something, or like sometimes like the men would like try to pull your panties to the side, you know, and it got to the point a couple times for me where like I was literally like walking out with like my clothes and my shoes in hand, and like literally just like slapping it across the face, because I will be darned.
And do the security kick them out? Like,
absolutely. Yeah, like that's like, because so you can't go back into the private room area without passing security first, because those are the people that are right there taking your money for the private dances, you know, and writing it down, and you're keeping track, and you're keeping a log of how many dances you do, because, you know, like at the end of the night, like that's like, okay, you paid your dues basically. But so you couldn't go in or out without passing the security. And so like that's the first thing we do. We would be like, hey, yo, this dude is like acting a fool back here, and I'm not dealing with this, and so you better get him. And like there would be some times where it'd be like the continuous like customers that would come in and out like all the time, they would kind of get away with that kind of behavior. But like at some point, like when it just got to be too much, so like, yeah, no, you're barred, like you can't come back. But like especially like with the men that are like, maybe like they come in once or twice, but like the third time they come in, like they're all kinds of like type of misbehavior and stuff like that, and trying to act a fool, like they get kicked out instantly. Like they obviously they have your ID, so like they check you, and like they make sure, and they write your name on like,
so you can't come back, so they can't come back.
Yeah. And so that way, like, first of all, it's like for the protection and safety and security of the women, but like also so there's like not, because you always want to have like, especially in a strip club, you want to have like chill vibes. You want to have like the good vibes. Yeah. All that negativity can go out the door, and that's where they went.
So what would be your worst experience there?
Yeah, I would have to say it'd be that gentleman that like, he pulled his junk out, but then also like ripped my panties to the side, and like without me knowing it, because he was like not the best looking guy. Like I went to like, because I'm dancing with my eyes closed, just trying to feel for the vibe, right, get the song over with. And when I went to go sit down on his lap, like it literally like slid in, and I'm like, oh, what is that? I'm done. Yeah. Grabbed my stuff and I walked out. I felt like, girl, I felt so disgusted. Like, just personally, like, I felt so, like, even though, like, it wasn't my fault and stuff like that, like, you just feel some type of way about yourself. You know, like, you feel, like, disgusting, and you feel like dirty.
Like, he's abusing.
Yeah.
What you're doing is not what he wants to do, like.
Yeah, like I'm a dancer. I'm not a prostitute. Like I'm not a sex worker. Like, you know, if that's what you want to find, go ahead and find it elsewhere. But like, honey, this is a dance club. This is a gentleman's club. And if that is something that you don't want to act like, then you can hit the door running, because like we don't tolerate that around here. No. But yeah, that's probably like one of the worst experiences that I had. There's been a couple times like where like I would be on the stage, and it'd be like one of the weekend days, and the weekend nights, and like men would come up to my stage, and like they would just be sitting there and like not really like throwing any money or anything, but like expect, like I'm not gonna come to you whether you're on my stage or not. Like I'll come say hi to you and stuff, but if you're not throwing me money, like if you're not paying me even just like $1 at a time or something, I'm not gonna pay you any attention. Like I'm gonna go to the other gentlemen that are sitting on the other side of the stage, and I'm gonna give them a show. I'm gonna, you know, entertain them, because those are the ones that are paying for my time. And there was this one time that this gentleman was sitting like on my like around my stage and stuff. I mean, he was like completely drunk, but like he had said something, like he had called me, he was drunk, but like he called me like a perra, and was like, man, you can't do this. I can do what I want. Like, I've got all this money and stuff. Like, you can't tell me. Like, I come here all the time. Like, they know me. And I'm like, I just like, and there were so many people in the club. Like, it was packed. And like, the DJ, the bouncers, and the bartenders, they all knew that if Cash was popping off and like telling someone off, like something is wrong. Like, someone needs to go over there real quick because she's about to like throw this person across the room. Like, I would be the first person to like take off my stiletto with it.
Yeah.
Like, I don't play. And like, he had just said something like so disrespectful, or like, no, I remember what it was. He tried like playing with my lady parts on stage. Like, and I'm just like, dude, like, I can't have none of that. I kept like trying to be nice at first and like swipe his hand away. No, and then that's when he called me a perra and was like, yeah, I'm gonna do what I want with you. And this, I'm like, I'll be darned you're not. And so like I slapped his hand away and everything, and I'm like, you son of a gun. I just start cussing him out in Spanish because he was a Latino, and I'm just like, dude, like, I understand like you're having a good time and you're drunk, but like, don't disrespect me like that.
Yeah.
And like, I told him and everything, and like the DJ at the time was Latino as well, and like that was my homie and stuff. And so like he was like, man, he got on the mic and he was like, somebody get this MFer out of here real quick. So yeah, like, and that's kind of the thing I loved about the club, is that like, you don't disrespect the dancers. Like, that is like rule number one.
And you're protected by like everyone there, I'm sure.
We're like one big family, and
Yeah.
that's kind of like, at that time in my life, that's what I needed, because I had to isolate myself from my family because of their toxic traits and like the toxicity that they had, and I just didn't want to be a part of that. And so like, you know, the community that I had at Dancers, the one that you know, at the club that I had, it was like one big family, you know.
Yeah.
Like, you had all the bodyguards that were like brothers, you know, and the DJ, like literally it's a family owned business. Like, you're just adopted into the family. And so it was definitely what I needed at that point in my life. And you know, as much as people like to belittle women who dance for money, you know, and who do sex work for money, like, I understand that it's maybe not your choice of how to make money, but this is how women make money. And in the culture that we live in, especially like throughout history, like, it's just something that women are known to do, just to put food on their table or to put clothes on their kids' back. Like, this is sometimes this is all women know. And until they, you know, kind of grow from it and kind of like learn how to make money, but in different ways. I mean, there was a lady that I worked with at the club, and I think she was probably like in her 40s, and she was still dancing. Like, I mean, but that's what women do, you know.
Yeah.
There are women that are in their 30s that still dance, and if you're able to still dance and like still like entertain these men at age 30, age 40, like, by all means, like, live your best life, sweetheart. Absolutely.
Yeah, because I feel like a lot of people do judge.
Yeah, too much.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's like, you live your life, let them live their life. And,
yeah, like,
you
if
know.
they're comfortable enough with coming to the club and having a good time, and this is how they blow off steam, and just listening to the different music and dancing with half naked women, like, that, if that's what, you know, I would rather them do that than be a junkie, you know, and kind of steer to the wrong thing and kind of try to solve their life problems in a negative way. And I don't think that like the strip club per se is like the worst place that you can go to try to find help, because, you know, like we were talking earlier with like therapy and stuff, like that was therapy for some people. That was some people's only exposure to a social life, because they were introverts, or, you know, they were bullied as teenagers and kids and stuff like that, or because they worked all the time and had to provide for their family. This is the only way that they can get out and have a good time. So I definitely, not just the dancers, but like the clients that would come in. Just because they come into the club doesn't mean that they're a bad person. It doesn't also mean that, you know, just because they're spending a lot of money on a woman, that, you know, they're an evil husband and not a good father, and, You know, like it's always worse than what it really is, and that's what people make of it. But at the end of the day, like it's like any other job. You know, like if you go into Hooters, for example, you know, like there are men that go there and just, you know, for the wings. And, you know, the woman that's parading around in booty shorts and a tank top is just part of the gig. And that's what it is at the clubs too, I think.
Yeah.
Well, I will say this on the whole adoption thing.
Oh, yes. Because I don't think we got to that point, right?
Yeah. So we kind of stopped at my second child.
Yeah.
So when I met...
So you said you have 3?
Yeah, I have 3 kids now.
Okay.
And when I met my middle child's dad at the club...
The Puerto Rican.
Yes, the Puerto Rican. We like tried working it out for like the first few months and everything. And like he was really like excited about like, you know, having a baby, and was like really hoping that it would be a boy. But like when he found out that it was a girl, he didn't want nothing to do with her. And I was living with him at the time, and like I had just like, he had helped me, cause like he would give me money. Like that man made so much money, and he wasn't afraid to like share it with me and stuff, cause I was his girl and I was carrying his baby. But when we found out that I was having a girl, like he told me that I had to like write my name off the lease, and I had to find somewhere to go, and he didn't care anything about me because he didn't want a girl. And he basically like disowned me and everything. And I was like 6, 7 months, 8 months pregnant at the time.
But that's not your fault.
Yeah. I mean, I know that. It's just, but this is just how some men think, unfortunately. And it's unfortunate because I think he didn't have the right father figure in his life, and being raised by a single mother, and, you know, having an absent dad, you know, would cheat on his mom all the time, and just not being there for him and being the proper example as a dad. I kind of, you know, messed with him. And even though he was like 42 at the time, like he was just still kind of stuck in childish ways. And so, like it was heartbreaking for me, but like, you know, I still had to focus on what was best for my kids. And, you know, my first baby daddy was, putting me through the ringer with court and custody and child support and all this kind of stuff, and going through the trial and tribulation with him. Like I kind of like had to sit back and realize that I couldn't do this by myself, not with 2 kids. Like as a single mom, like I already knew how hard it was just providing for my one son and my firstborn. And as much as I loved my daughter, as much as I wanted to keep her, as much as I wanted to raise her as my own, like, you know, I prayed a lot. And, you know, the only thing that helped me survive through everything that I've been through, you know, as an adult is, you know, his guidance and his love and his mercy and his grace that has carried me through. And, you know, seeking the options, you know, because I had contemplated abortion, and I had thought about like, you know, getting rid of it, because what am I supposed to do?
Yeah.
Like, and this was something that he had himself had offered me. He was like, I'll pay for it. Just, I'm like, I'm already like 5, 6, 7 months along. I'm not my kid.
Yeah,
I don't want to do that. And like my son, it was only like 2 at the time, was like, you know, like rubbing on my stomach and like kissing my stomach and hugging my stomach, because he knew that was baby sister in there. And I couldn't do that to him either. And so like I went to this like women's, it's not necessarily like a clinic, but like it's like a resource center for women. I think it's called Bravely now. It used to be called something different back then. But I went there just to kind of explore options and stuff like that, because this was like because it was like right down the street from Planned Parenthood.
Okay.
And before I really went that route, like I wanted to explore my options with this other place right down the street. And so I did. And this lady, I promise you, she was a godsend angel. She was like, Leah, let me just hear what you're going through. And she would listen to the situation that I was in. And she's like, well, she's like, I understand that, like, you know, you're contemplating, like, trying to figure out whether it's right for you, or being a single parent of 2 kids now, like, and you're trying to find out what's best for you. And she's like, that's totally valid. It's totally okay that, like, you feel like you have like a lot of weight on your shoulders, and you just have to remember that, like, you're never alone in this, and that there are always options. And that's when she kind of like talked to me about the whole option of adoption.
Okay.
And she's like, yeah. And she's like, have you ever like experienced anything with adoption? I'm like, well, the only experience I've gotten is with my little sister and my aunts that, ended up raising my younger sister. And she was like, okay. And then I told her a little bit about that information. And like, the more I thought about it, the more I prayed about it, like the more God told me that, like, as much as I wanted to keep my daughter, and I really tried my hardest throughout my entire pregnancy to like raise both my kids, but financially, like, I just couldn't.
Yeah.
And as a single mom, like, it's really hard providing for one kid and doing it on your own, and not really being able, because the jobs that I've had, I would always make too much money and I couldn't get like cash assistance or food stamps or anything like that, so I would have to do it all on my own. And I just came to the point of just going through the steps in the process of choosing like a family that would possibly adopt my daughter, and like what I would expect, and if I wanted it to be a closed adoption or if I wanted it to be an open adoption. And like, as much as like I didn't have and I lacked the parents in my life, although I think that in some certain circumstances it's better not to have the toxic parents in your life, but like the ones that actually care about you and like the ones that do love you, because there are a lot of parents and birth moms that make the loving sacrifice to place their child up for adoption only because they truly want the best for their child.
Yeah.
And that's what I wanted for my daughter, and I didn't want my kids to grow up in the same struggle cycle that my family has gone through, and in the same cycle that I'm going through, and I didn't want them to experience that out of the love that I had for them. And like, I give like all the kudos to the single moms that have more than just one child, because like, as much as I struggle with one, I couldn't imagine how it is with 2 and 3 and 4 and so on. So like, I give them like all the kudos in the world, because it really takes a strong woman to play both roles.
Yeah.
Because when that man is absent, it's now the responsibility as a mom to take on both roles. And even though like society seems like, okay, men can just walk away from their problems and not raise the kids and not have the responsibility to the children that they themselves created, also with this single mom now, like, women have to carry that weight by themselves, and they can't just walk away. And if they do, well, they're a bad mom. And, that's not always the case. And so, like, when I went through the whole process of adoption, I was able to look through, like, 6 different families and read their profile books and, like, to find out more about them and ultimately figure out which one was the best fit for my daughter. And like what I wanted, because I wanted to have that open adoption. I wanted to have the openness so my kids can grow up together. And so like, if my daughter always had questions, like, she would always know that even though she was placed up for adoption, it wasn't because I didn't love her, because that was completely the opposite, and it's so funny because, here we are, my daughter just turned 3 years old at the end of September, and the family that I chose, I promise you, was totally like God picked. Like, only God could have picked out this family, because everything that I wanted in an open adoption, like, they were open to the openness that I wanted, and they knew the importance that a birth mom or a birth parent would have an impact on their kid, and and that stability. And they say that 2 parents are always better than 1, but 3 and 4 parents are always better than 1 or 2.
Yeah.
And so the blessing that my daughter, both my daughters, have now, because I think it was back in 2022 that I found that I was pregnant with my 3rd child from a different relationship.
Okay.
And so like, her dad went MIA, because I found out that he had warrants that he didn't tell me about, because he was trying to, like, we were trying to live together, but he wasn't honest. And so like, I don't like dishonest people. And so I'm like, yeah, no, you gotta go. And I didn't hear anything. And then like, after I found out I was pregnant, it was like right before Christmas that year, I actually flew to Paris and had like a quick vacation, like birthday celebration in Paris. And I thought it was like jet lag, because it was like my first like major trip across the seas. Like, I went to Guatemala.
Oh.
And yeah, that was an amazing time down in Guatemala that summer. And then in December I went to Paris, and so it was like the second time I'd been out the country. But like, 8 hours is like the longest trip I had taken.
Yeah.
And I thought it was just jet lag, nausea, and I wasn't able to eat anything, even though I wanted to try like the French cuisine and like try to like see the Louvre and like try to experience like the Eiffel Tower and stuff. I didn't want to do any of it because I was nauseous, and I thought it was jet lag. I thought it was like, yeah, I'm just feeling nauseous from the flight. No, when I got back home, a couple days later, because like on my way back, I actually had a flight delay in Dublin, Ireland, so I actually was able to visit Ireland out of all randomness, but I was like, yeah, I'm feeling good. I'm feeling fine. I got back home to the States and I'm still nauseous. I'm still throwing up. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, what is wrong with me? And one of my girlfriends, she's like, yeah, no, girl, you're pregnant. She's like, I've had like 3 kids and I know exactly what you're going through. And that's not jet lag. I said, girl, do not tell me that because I am not ready. I am not ready to have another kid. And I was like, okay, fine. I'll pee on the stick. And I like, even before like taking the pregnancy test, I kind of knew my decision with this kid because I knew I was going to be a single mom again. And like, you know, even still now, like 6 years later, my son will be 6 in December, like still trying to fight the courts and custody and trying to get custody back of my son, you know, because I made a promise to him and I made, you know, that promise that I would always protect him and, you know, I'd always be there for him, like no matter what it took. You know, unfortunately, I've had to make these sacrifices, but it always works out for the greater good. And so, like, when I got back and I found out I was pregnant, reading the profile book of my daughter's family, I kind of knew, like, in the beginning that they would wanted to adopt again and eventually kind of, like, foster, like, teenagers and older kids that get stuck in the system and, you know, and just give them a better chance at life. And so I kind of knew that this was, like, their long-term goal. You know, and my daughter was going to be the first of many kids that they would help out, you know, in adoption and guardianships and foster parents and stuff like that.
So your 2 daughters are together with these? Okay.
So for our Christmas gathering that I do with my daughter's family, because I'm able to like still be a part of my daughter's life, and it's so funny because like her middle name is my middle name, so she's my little Rose, and so she every time that she gets to see me and stuff, she's like Rose, and she gets so happy. But does she know
that you are?
Yeah. So my daughter's parents actually have 2 biological kids of their own, and so my daughter, my little Rose, is their 3rd kid, and then my youngest daughter is also their 4th kid.
Okay.
So and they all call me Mama Rose.
Okay.
You know, out of respect of the fact that like this is your birth mom and this is where you come from, but like we're your parents. And so like she's always known me because I've always been a part of her life, and I would be able to have visits with her and stuff like that. And for this time in particular, when we had this Christmas get together and stuff, like the day after Christmas, I had bought, because my baby mama, that's what I call her, she's my baby mama, and then it's my baby mama and her husband. Like, I don't ever call him baby daddy because it's just kind of weird. And like, again, going back to the respecting the woman before like the man and stuff, like, so it's just a different type of respect. And so like my baby mama loves coffee. Like me and her both love coffee. And so when I was in Ireland, because some of my heritage is Irish descent, my last name is actually like an Irish name. And like going there, I kind of sent my roots to her in kind of like this familiar way with a coffee mug. And I got her a coffee mug with some kind of Irish proverb that was on it. Do you want more? Oh, yes, please. Thank you. So, with this little, cup that I got her from Ireland, I truly think this is like the sweetest one that I've ever had. Yeah, that's right, girl. Finish the bottle. I know that's right. I know that's right. So, it was kind of like a cute way in how I kind of set it up. I had this like box because she gave me like a Starbucks cup in a box for my birthday, and like a month before, and so I reused the box and I put the coffee mug on the top part where the lid normally goes, and like at the bottom I stuck the pregnancy test down there. And I'm like, hey girl, so here's your Christmas present, Merry Christmas. She's like, oh, how sweet, a coffee cup, that's so amazing. And like the fact that it like ties back to my heritage and stuff. because she's like real into that like whole lineage and stuff, because this is like my daughter's family.
Yeah.
And I'm like, but there's more. Like, open the flap, and I'm trying to like hint at her and stuff. And so she looked inside, and like her facial reaction is like it looked literally like the same reaction as like, because she was in, her and her husband was in the room, of course, like when I gave birth to our daughter.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And so like, I mean, like we've had some like really amazing intimate moments, like as parents, like just being like the three parents of my daughter and sharing these intimate moments together. And so it was kind of like the reaction you think you would get from like your child's father is like the same reaction like I got from her. And she was like crying, and she was like, oh my goodness, you're pregnant. And I'm like, yeah, but like here's the thing, like I know that you guys wanted to adopt again, so like you have, like, if you want it, like the opportunity is yours first, obviously, but like if you don't, like that's fine. I'm not gonna like put the pressure on you to adopt this kid. Like if it's not the time, I understand. Like I already have another family in mind that I would like to, you know, bless, because like I would have chose them had it not been for you guys, you know, because they were struggling with infertility issues and stuff. And if I could, I would have 6 babies for all those families, because they were just like such beautiful people, you know, and they had such beautiful families. It was a really hard decision to make. And she's like, okay, girl, I thank you so much, like, for the, like, you know, letting us know and giving us the opportunity. But, like, of course, we're gonna have to, like, talk about it and, like, pray about it and stuff. She's like, we'll let you know. Like, no worries, just take your time. And so, like, before I can get home that night, I think it was, like, a couple hours later, she calls me. And I think I fell asleep. And it was like a voicemail. She was like, call me like when you get a chance, whatever. And so I called her when I got up, and she was like, so we've talked about it, and it was only like a couple hours it took them to call me back. And I'm like, well, we've thought about it, and of course, like we'll have this baby with you. And I'm like, okay, well, you love me so much that you want to have two babies by the same crazy baby mama. Like, like it just kind of like testified to the whole like beauty that is adoption, and like being able to continue our journey and our story with adoption in this way. And now our daughters are 3 and just turned 3 and just turned 1, and like being able to like see the progress that they've made. And now that like they have their camper, like they have some land that they had just bought out in Oklahoma, and like they're thriving, and like they're living their best life, and my girls are growing up together, and like they have the best like siblings with their biological kids too. And like seeing all 4 of these kids like grow up together and love each other, and you know, just how happy my girls are. Like that's what I've always wanted for both of them, you know. And just being able to be blessed enough to have my kids go to the same family. And, you know, like, as much as, like, my baby mama and her husband, like, care about me as the birth mom, and, like, you know, like, she's always been that friend for me to, like, okay, like, what's going on with baby daddy now? Like, have you gotten your kid? Have you got to see him? Like, you know, and, so, like, they're always there for me in a sense. And, like, they love my son as if, you know, it was just another sibling in the mix. And that's just the beauty of our family, is because it's, like, blended in that way. And adoption has been able to grow my family in that way. And being a part of my daughter's life is a true blessing, because like even though my daughter's only 3 and 1, like it's made such a positive impact on their life, because I think like that has helped them be happy and as, you know, blessed as they are, and like knowing that like this woman loves me too. Like I've got these great amazing parents because of the decision that she's made. And, you know, knowing what, like the saying goes, mother knows best. Mm-hmm. Mother does know best for their kids, because there's no other connection like it.
And I think that also makes it, like, not as hard for you. Absolutely.
Being able to have a friendship with the parents of my daughters, I'm not gonna lie, has actually, like, helped me cope with the grieving that, you know, women, they don't like to talk about, and it's hard for them to talk about, because, you know, when you place your child up for adoption, most of the time, how I've seen it gone is there are women that give up their kid for adoption and they never hear from them again.
Yeah.
They never hear any updates about them, or they'll get updates for a little while and then eventually the parents just cut it off. And, it's unfortunate to see that, because not only does it affect the child as they grow up, it affects the woman. And, it's, I've never, had, a stillborn or a miscarriage, by the grace of God. But, for the women that do kind of go through that mourning and that pain of physically losing your child in that way, it's kind of like the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
You carry this child for 9-10 months and you literally birth this baby into life, but as soon as you birth it, they're taken away from you. And I think that being a part of my daughter's life and having the beautiful family that we have has kind of healed my broken heart, and even though that void is always going to be there,
Mm-hmm.
of me not being her mom, seeing them happy and seeing them grow as a family has made me understand, this is my purpose. This is what I was.
And where do you see Rose right now?
Now, I feel like Rose has evolved from who she was then as Cash. She never forgets where she comes from, and that kind of stems from the transformation from Cash to Rose, because, my great-great-grandma was named Rose, and all of this background, and, having the insecurities I did as a child because I wasn't loved the proper way. I found the love that I needed in my sisterhood with my dancer friends, or, with the family that I had as a dancer, and the friends that I've made there. And those are the friends that have turned into family and have helped me go through my personal life trials and tribulations, and vice versa, because I've been there for my friends just as much as they've been there for me. And now, I've seen myself going through these different phases as, as a kid, as a teenager, into Cash, and now Cash is, who's defined me as a woman, and it's made me prouder of the woman that I am today. And even though I'm a mother and I love being a mother, and that's my favorite thing that I could ever be, the best title I can have is mother. I feel more of a servant, and in a sense, I still want to serve those kind of people, that are kind of castaways and people that feel like they don't matter, and that, they can find love at the bottom of a bottle, or, in the private room of a strip club, finding love in all the wrong places. And, who I feel like Rose is now is kind of who is found myself.
Mm-hmm.
As Rose, I found out who Cash was. I found out what her problems were and what ticked her off. And now, as Rose, I'm being able to grow from that and learn from that experience, but also never forgetting who I was and where I came from, and all the lessons and all the beauty that it's brought out of all of those trials and tribulations.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah. And just still loving to serve people.
Yeah.
And I think that's what I love being as a dancer. That's who I was as Cash was. Okay, what do you need? Okay, you need someone to talk to? That's fine. Oh, you need a hug? You've had a bad day? That's perfectly fine,
Yeah.
And so still being able to do that, but with clothes on.
Yeah.
So, yeah, and just being able to embrace myself and kind of spread that positivity, when I meet women, and when, people, oh, you used to be a dancer, I can't believe, yeah, girl, it's the best time and everything like that, but still being able to keep the love, the sisterhood love that we had, and just being able to not only keep myself with all the self-love and the self-respect that I have, but also bearing my testimony to other women, and knowing that even though you may not have gone through what I've had to go through, you probably still had your problems and your trials and tribulations and the things that have traumatized you in your life, and that's perfectly okay. And just knowing that even with men, I attract to men so well because of just the experiences that I've had.
Yeah.
And knowing that men are sensitive too. Men go through problems and life is frustrating for them, whether they're, the sole provider for their family, or, they're taking care of their sick wife at home and that's why they're always traveling. And just kind of just remembering that these people aren't just dollar bills. Like, they're humans, you know, and when you treat them as humans, like, you find more valuable things than just cash.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much.
Yeah, thank
I
you so
really
much.
appreciate you sharing your story and really interesting things that you experienced and went through. Thank you for sharing.
Yeah. Well, I hope my story encourages or motivates whoever is watching this, maybe not just women, but also men, and for men to just know that it's okay to stand up for women, and it's okay to stand up for the aunts and the sisters and the grandmas and the moms out there that you have in your life, because again, like, we need the voice and the strength of men to kind of back us up, you know, and to be our protectors and to be our providers, and, you know, just to be there and support women however you can. And, you know, especially with like, if your lady wants to go out and have a girls' night, like, just let her do her thing. And you know, encourage women, you know, kind of like with you and like your husband. Like, this is just amazing that, like, not only are you supporting him, and like now he's being able to support you, and like that's really important. And like, I give you guys so much kudos because the strength that you guys have, like, it is an inspiration to other women. You know, and finding that solidarity that you guys have in your marriage, and being able to be creative but also create off each other, like the amazing artwork that you guys come up with.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's no problem.
Thank you.
Keep up the good work.
Thank you.
Okay? And like, all the women that come after me that sit in this seat, like, you know, always remember, like, you being able to have this platform for women and to speak their truth, you know, and just listening to them. Like, that is such an amazing heart that you have, and the compassion that you have for the girls that sit in this seat. So just thank you for being a wonderful host. And not just I'm not a wonderful host, but also a beautiful one too. So
thank you.
You're very welcome.
Thank you. Well, thanks for watching.
Thanks for tuning in. Hasta
luego. See you next time on Wine Not Podcast. Thank you.